Welcome back to McNulty's Book Corral. I'm sorry I'm late to the party. I lost my head, and it took me a while to wrap my mind around things again on this cold Halloween day where the leaves are skittering across the graveyard lawn like tarantulas. Spooky! And today, once again, I'm surrounded by monsters. I like monsters. Sometimes they're rather attractive, don't you think? Let's just put this guy over here next to his brother, and we'll take it from there. For the final Halloween episode of the month, I have a couple of books to go over. I have a couple of notes, and we're going to have some fun. The first book we're going to talk about is Roger Elwood's Vampires, Werewolves, and Other Monsters. Really cool little paperback. On the back it says Sadist, Ghoul, Cannibal, Psycho, Werewolf, and Vampire. Wide variety of short stories here. This is not a great collection, but it does have some good authors. Brian Lumley, Joseph Payne Brennan, which is Diary of a Werewolf, which, correct me if I'm wrong, was that not reprinted in his collection about midnight, called Midnight? I forget. I have it somewhere. Barry N. Malzberg, Ramsey Campbell, these are big-time names from the past. And Basil Copper, another great writer. Stories are so-so, they're not bad. It's a good little book. If you see it on the aftermarket, pick it up. It is from, who is the publisher on this? Curtis Books, I don't know what that is. And pick it up on the aftermarket, read it in an afternoon. All of these books, with the exception of the last one, are afternoon reads. Afternoon reads are okay. Up next, we're doing Moon of the Wolf by Leslie H. Whitten. And look at this baby. This goes back to 1967. And Leslie H. Whitten was an interesting guy. I have to talk about him for a moment. 1928, 2017. He was a journalist who covered Watergate and other timely events in the 60s and, the 70s. And he was a translator of Charles Baudelaire. He wrote dozens of thrillers. Stephen King referred to one of his books, and that book was called The Progeny of the Adder, as an essential horror novel. I have not read Progeny of the Adder. If I ever see it, I would pick it up. And he wrote many other thrillers. Moon of the Wolf is fairly well known. It was made into a TV movie back in the day. I'm sure I saw it. I don't remember anything about it. The book is pretty good. It is, the transformation scenes are what you would expect from a Lon Chaney movie. I'm sorry. Chaney's over here. That's Paul Naschy. Lon Chaney. And, the fangs grow, the hair sprouts out. He gets a menacing look in his eyes. He's got claws, and he goes on a rampage. It is pretty good. Werewolf thriller, and that's about the best thing I can say about it. From Ace Paperbacks in 1967, this cost 60 cents. I'm assuming this is a later reprint, and it doesn't say. Either way, there you go. You have two right there. Let's do another one. Let us do Night of the Vampire by Raymond Giles. This is another really fun little book. This is actually the better of the three. And this was published also this is 69. And this is the Avon paperback. I've owned multiple copies of this over the years. Lent it out, lost it, went back and found it. Raymond Giles was born in 1926. He died in 2006. His real name was John Robert Holt, and he wrote those Southern romance thrillers. And I've never read any of them. This is the only book of his I've read. I like it. It's a dramatic Southern style family vampire novel. It's very well written. It kept me interested. It has kind of a cult origin to the background on the characters, with the family activities, some Satanism and so forth. Very good dramatic vampire novel. Not exactly along the traditional tropes and modes that we would expect, but good enough. Nothing really bloody about this at all, just dramatic, thrilling, well-written narrative tale. I like it. I think it's good. I'll read you the back. Come back. Surely the vows they had taken so long ago had been meaningless, simply been part of a game, an ignorant, childish, and yes, an obscene game, but a game nonetheless. They could hardly be called to reckon for such foolishness now, could they? And on and on. Very good book. Love the weird, goofy cover on here. I really like the cover. And I think the artist is credited here. It is by Hector Garrido. I'm unfamiliar with him, but I like this book. So there we have 3 vintage paperbacks for Halloween, if you should happen to find these on the aftermarket. Now, I'm pleased to tell you, in this episode at least, I'm showing you 3 vintage paperbacks that are not hard to find on eBay. So if you're really interested in reading these and adding them to your collection, you can probably get low-grade, inexpensive copies for your home library on eBay and perhaps some other places as well. And now for the last book. The last book is a contemporary author who I'm sure many of you have heard of. His name is Donald F. Glut. And back in the day, the 70s, he did a series of Frankenstein novels that were published in paperback. They were very popular. It was one of many Frankenstein series. I've covered one series. There was another one. Donald Glutz was probably the better of them. And he has compiled his in 2 volumes. And this is the first volume, which you can find on Amazon. It's a mammoth book. It has supplementary historical essays and photographs relating to his career as a filmmaker, screenwriter, actor, and comic book writer. Everything is in here. And it's fun to read the novels. So let me give you a list here. This is including the following books: Frankenstein Lives Again, Terror of Frankenstein, Bones of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Meets Dracula, that was one of my favorites, Frankenstein versus the Werewolf, Frankenstein in the Lost World, and it has 2 supplementary historical essays with photographs involved. Really, this is not, these other 3 books were a daily read, just a beach read you can do in a day. This is a little different. It's over 1,000 pages, or is it? No, I'm sorry. It is over 700 pages, and it's worth your time. I don't yet have the second volume. They're kind of pricey, so think about this carefully if you're interested in this. As far as the writing goes, these are slightly revised from the original versions. I recommend them. You can't go wrong here with this stuff. It's Donald Glut. If you don't know anything about him, you can look him up. He has a website, and this is a really fun Frankenstein. He's always looking over my shoulder. The monster is back. Okay, so that wraps up October. I hope you enjoyed these books. I hope that you learned something. I hope that you're well. Please stay well, stay happy, feed your brain, read a book.